The 27th of February, 2022, outside Kyiv, a column of Russian armor snakes through the forest, confident, massive, unstoppable. But what they don't know is that they're being watched. Not by soldiers, not by NATO, but by a group of teenagers in hoodies armed with consumer drones and rage. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the world watched in disbelief. Armored columns rolled across borders. Cruise missiles lit up Kyiv. Russia expected a swift collapse. But what they didn't expect was a tech-savvy, deeply motivated civilian resistance.
Зараз мені 16 і я дівчина, але це не відкидає факту того, що моїй країні зараз потрібна допомога на фронті.
Across Ukraine, teenagers began repurposing toys into weapons. Drones bought for birthday parties now carried grenades. Smartphones were transformed into battlefield intelligence hubs. And in the suburbs north of Kyiv, a group of young volunteers would change the course of a convoy in a war. The Russian column moving through Hostomel wasn't small. 30-plus tanks, dozens of APCs, support trucks, a spearhead aiming for the Ukrainian capital. But they were exposed. The road was narrow, surrounded by forest, choke points everywhere. And watching from an abandoned apartment building were 4 teenagers. Their average age, 17. Their gear? 2 DJI Mavics, a thermal imaging add-on hacked from a hunting scope, and 1 encrypted walkie-talkie. They had no military training, no formal mission, just a cell phone ping from a friend in territorial defense. The teens launched their drone. What they saw was terrifying. The Ukrainian defenders needed intel. The drone team provided it in real time. Coordinates, head counts, movement patterns, even fuel truck positions. The footage was passed to an artillery unit 8 kilometers south. Within 12 minutes, the first strikes landed. 3 APCs were knocked out. The convoy stalled. The Russians scrambled. Drones buzzed overhead. But it didn't stop there. The teens noticed a pattern. The Russians clustered at intersections. That's where they dropped homemade charges. They weren't aiming to kill everyone. They aimed to paralyze. The convoy broke. Vehicles ditched. Men scattered. What began as a surgical strike turned into chaos. Who were they? Not soldiers, not partisans, just kids who grew up in a digital world, raised on strategy games, YouTube, and drone racing forums. They called themselves the Birds. No uniforms, no ranks, but they operated with precision. By the end of March, they had assisted in locating the 17th of September air raid Russian units. Eight convoys were hit thanks to their recon. None of them were over 18. This wasn't just improvisation. It was asymmetrical warfare on a Gen Z battlefield. They used Google Maps traffic data to track congestion, hacked Russian soldier TikToks to geolocate positions. They even flew decoy drones to bait anti-air fire. Ukrainian officers began to take notice. Soon, these teams were formally looped into command structures. Some became part of Aerorozvidka, Ukraine's aerial reconnaissance unit. What started as a hobby became doctrine. This wasn't just about drones, it was about redefining warfare. Russia brought tanks, Ukraine brought teenagers with drones. And the world took notice. Western militaries scrambled to update doctrine. NATO revised drone integration timelines. Defense analysts called it the beginning of the Silicon Rebellion, because on this battlefield, you didn't need stripes on your shoulder, just a laptop and a line of sight. But war always has a cost. One of the original Birds went missing during a night op. Another suffered burns from a downed battery raid. These weren't just gamers anymore, they were combatants, and Russia began hunting them. Despite this, the teens kept flying. Because every flight delayed an assault, every ping saved lives, every drop of a homemade grenade was one less shell on a Ukrainian home. By summer 2022, Ukraine's drone program had exploded. What began with teenagers in apartments evolved into full-scale drone battalions. 3D printed drone factories, night vision mods, swarm tactics. Ukraine became the world's first open-source drone army, and it started with a few kids and a mission. War is no longer fought just by armies. Sometimes, it's fought by kids with courage, curiosity, and $900 drone. And on a cold night outside Kyiv, they made the difference.